Good afternoon, Noble, and welcome to another edition of Noble Newsmakers, where we highlight the great things that are going on with our members of Nobles as we're impacting fairness and justice and equity in administration of justice across this country. We're excited this week to have another great conversation with a great leader and one of Noble's organizational leaders as well. And we're going to bring in our police director from Franklin Township, Director Spruill. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us on Noble Newsmakers. We're excited to have you on this conversation today. It's a lot of great things that are going on with your agency in particular. We saw some promotions that really made a historical impact last week, and just the great things that you're doing. So just wanted to have a conversation about that and kind of what started you on this journey and kind of what brings you to this point and how you're impacting the community there in New Jersey.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So, I like to say, first of all, I always say that I did not choose to go to Franklin. Franklin chose me. And I believe that, a higher power chose me to go to Franklin because I had other offers and considered other agencies. And coming to Franklin Township was the perfect fit for me. I entered during the first wave of the pandemic. And I will say it was challenging because our officers were on a agreed upon quarantine of 14 days on, 14 days off, and it was hard to meet with everyone at once. We had a reaffirmation of the badge during my first 3 months there because I believe that law enforcement, you enter at that moment when you initially take your oath, and it's for all the right reasons, and you're very passionate about law enforcement and helping others and serving the community. So I started during a part of the our actually nation was undergoing a pandemic, and then the killing of George Floyd really impacted our department because we had to not only deal with COVID, but we had to still get out in the community and find out what the community wanted and needed from us. So, I just took that first 30 days and reevaluated what was going on right in the community and throughout the nation that was impacting us.
It, that is a great thing, as you talked about, George Floyd in the summer and the things that were going on. And when you came on with the agency as well, being the first African American woman, I mean, that's a barrier breaking moment there in and of itself. What is that significance and how do you translate that into kind of expectations and community relations?
Right. So I feel like I am every caveat of what's going on right now. I represent, first of all, Black people. I represent people of color. I represent women. And that really started it for me within Franklin. And I believe the community sees that I have a passion for what I do. I'm not from Franklin, but I live right next door in the next town over. But the community wanted to see something different. They wanted to see the representation of the community in the police department. So my objective was to let them know that, okay, everyone here is working to serve you, no matter if they're Black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Asian, we are there. And that is represented within the department. It just was not being portrayed to the community and the public. They did not know the talent and the diversity that existed because there was a PR issue, public relations issue,
Mhm.
quite frankly, within the Franklin Township Police Department.
Well, definitely those public relations and getting that messaging out and the image of the agency and what you all are doing is something that you're working towards and improving those relations with the community. And part of that, improving that relationship with the community is certainly morale within the agency as well. And so we talked earlier about 11 historic promotions. I mean, that's a lot for any agency, but 11 promotions all earned. I stress that these aren't just gimmies. These were earned promotions. Kind of how was that experience and kind of what was your thought process and how is that impacting morale across the agency?
So, one of the things I did when I began in the agency, since the officers were on a voluntary COVID schedule, they were working 14 days, 14 days off. And my first meeting with the department was a Zoom meeting. And I will say 90% of the department attended that meeting. And I did a survey. And one of the things I listened to was the fact that others felt like the selection process for promotions was not quite as fair as it could have been. They felt it was a lot of, cronies being promoted, based upon who you knew. So what I did was set out to make a promotional testing system that represented not just information that people can memorize, but I wanted to see what did the officers know about their jobs. So for the sergeant's test, 50% of it was our rules and regulations. I mean, you have sergeants who are going to lead officers in the field primarily because two-thirds of our operation is patrol. I need to know, do you know the rules and regs in order to work with and supervise other officers? So that was one of the things that I initially put out, the training and the study information for the test, promotional test. Then for the lieutenants, they did an oral test, which was a oral presentation before the Chiefs Association, which monitored the test, and actually they developed the test, and they had to, spit out the information about what would happen if I was at the scene of a motor vehicle crash with a school bus. What do you have to do? So I was quite impressed with the amount of people that took the test. But at the end of the day, 14 people passed the sergeant's test, and it was 4 people that passed the lieutenant's test. So what you saw, the 11 promotions, that is the first 8 sergeants and the first 3 lieutenants.
Okay.
And it was historical because there has not been a African American lieutenant holding that rank. The last one promoted was in 1991.
Wow.
So this time there were 2 African Americans that passed the test and that made it to the top 3. And that was our first African Sergeant Lacewell, and our first, not first, and an African American male, Sergeant Lloyd Fredericks.
Well, congratulations, Sergeant Lacewell, Sergeant Fredericks too. I mean, those are great accomplishments, and I know that you were able to in the middle of this pandemic leverage technology for their swearing in. How was that experience as well? Kind of coordinating that oath and swearing in through technology.
So, that's just it. You have to share the information with the public and the community. People have to know this is going on in the police department for them to appreciate that we are making impactful changes. And it wasn't just for the community, it also was for their families because during these times it's hard for everyone to get together and celebrate. But, people told me they had their family from all over the country watching their promotional ceremonies. And most times, if you think about it, if we did it live, most people could not make it. So that was great for them. They were able to have their own Zoom parties after the promotionals. And last 2 months ago, sorry, we had promotions for the captains. And if you saw in that picture, the white shirts, those are our captains. And that was also a historic promotion because it was the first African American who rose to the rank of captain within the Franklin Township Police Department also.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of history being made in Franklin Township, and something that we should definitely recognize, and needs to be something that we really talk about. The accomplishments of 2020. We definitely let the pandemic and COVID-19 grab headlines, but there are some great things that are going on and accomplishments, and certainly within African Americans in law enforcement and public safety. So we certainly thank you and Franklin Township for advancing and doing some great things that are breaking barriers and really showing the model for our young people that policing is a profession that they can strive and thrive in. So thank you so much for that. Lastly, I would like to say, just in general, with Noble, Noble is looking to really help break barriers and connect and build bridges across communities of colors. And so, what would you kind of see as Noble's role nationally? How can we work as an organization to really bridge that relationship with communities of color, as well as make an impact on public safety?
So within Franklin Township, we also gained some Noble members. And the one thing that I love when someone asks, "What is Noble?" And I explain to them the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives and the different types of law enforcement officers that we have from, federal, state, county, local, everyone that exists from different backgrounds, different countries, different states, and the diversity within Noble itself. And our Law in Your Community program is definitely one of the biggest programs that bridges the gap between us and the community. Because if you do that presentation to children, to youth, and to adults as well, they that is like our stamp. That's our rubber stamp. But one of the things I would love to see with Noble is that our leaders come together and, form a pact that we are going to make it our mission to do historical things within places where we work, and fight to have, equity and diversity and transparency and accountability amongst law enforcement officers. In New Jersey, we're working with legislators, we're working with state government, the Attorney General's office to be a part of the working groups to have impactful change because it starts at the top, and we are leaders within Noble, no matter which um, membership we stamped with once we sign in, but we are leaders. We have that mindset that we want to lead and we want to make a difference. And I just want to see more of that collaboration and helping others to see this is how you do it and this is how you get through some of the barriers. Because trust me, Mr. James, it is not easy to make the changes that are needed, but you just have to be courageous and think that this is our moment because unfortunately something horrible had to happen for the nation, for the world to see what could happen, but we can make it better. We are here.
Well, it sounds like we're definitely doing a lot of great work, and appreciate what you were talking about there. And the Law in Your Community is definitely one of the flagship programs at Noble. And so, those who are interested, if you visit the Noble website, www.noblenational.org, under our programs, you'll find more information about the Law in Your Community and how we can bring that program to a community near you as well. Also, follow us on Facebook. We're on Facebook, very active, and you can follow us also on Twitter, and those are our handles there. Director Spruill, I thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us and making a part of Noble Newsmakers. And thank you and recognize and congratulate your agency on all the great things that you all are doing. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Stay
Noble,
safe.
all right, you all be safe too. I think you got a little snow up there in New Jersey, so you all keep that way. I'll
Okay.
be reaching out and connecting with some of our other members. I know there's a couple members as we get further out west. As we'll talk and we'll check in with others and Noble Newsmakers who are dealing with some snow as well. So please, everyone, stay safe. Enjoy this holiday season. And as you have ideas and suggestions, please reach out to us at Noble for our Noble Newsmakers. I'm Keenan James, Deputy Director of Noble. I appreciate everyone tuning in with us today, and we look forward to hearing great things on Noble Newsmakers.